Hey Lena, let's take a look at your week 1 assignment 2. This is off to a good start, both of these, although I think the colored pencil one works very well in that you're using, I would say, the kind of the full extent of the colored pencil on these, and you're doing a nice job of mixing the marker and the colored pencil together. The technique driven ones, they're definitely a good start, but there are some things that we'll want to keep an eye on as we kind of move through these assignments, these first assignments of the week. So you have the basic technique down in both of these. You're cutting your edges top and bottom on the blind, looks like all the way around for the side to side, and you're working with a vertical stroke for your blind and trying to cover evenly on the side to side through, it just kind of looks like, laying in the marker. One thing I'll say right off with the Venetian blind is you do not have to go vertically for the Venetian blind. If you're not comfortable using the marker and trying to go straight up and down, some people actually feel better going horizontally, or you can obviously just kind of turn the paper in a way that makes it comfortable for you as you're laying in these consistent strokes. But you have to be very kind of cognizant of the stroke that you make and then the one after it, because you don't want to have gaps of white. You can have some gaps of white. I would say like thin ones or little ones towards the bottom are fine, but if you get larger ones, it starts to, one is affect the value of the fill. You got a lot more white in between your strokes, it's going to appear lighter, and then two is it's just going to create some inconsistency. So you want to try and get them close together, but they don't have to be just barely touching. I think Jonathan did a nice job on his blue one here, where you can see that it's definitely overlapping, but he's very consistent. He might have even used a straight edge where he just kind of drew in one line, and they're consistent in their direction, and they feel pretty fluid in that they just move from top to bottom, and it seems like at the same speed. So this is where you kind of have to do, I think, a little bit more keeping an eye on it. I think the blue one feels a little better to me because the stroke feels a lot more consistent. The gray one, it seems like maybe there were some doubling over, and it feels like maybe you went in and pressed a little bit harder and a little bit lighter, maybe a little faster, a little slower. So you have to kind of keep everything at the same speed. It'll happen, you'll get used to the markers, and the more that you do it, the more you start to it's almost just finding a rhythm where you just kind of draw a line until you get to some area where you have to kind of switch it up. But it really just kind of ends up being about finding just kind of a good kind of place that you're at, and you just kind of move these lines in over and over and over. The side to side, I think the main thing that you need to do is saturate the page fully, so it looks like it's getting very saturated here but not so much here, and then you have to make your way all the way up to the edge, which is always the problem. One thing that can help to keep the value kind of the same is when you're doing your cuts around the shape, maybe make one cut and then go back and do a cut immediately after, and depending on the marker you might have to do it a third time, but usually that makes the edges very, very dark, and it sort of matches the darker value that's going to happen in the middle when you start laying in the side to side in the center. So we can see here we have very, very dark in the center, but it gets very light around the edges because you haven't gone in and saturated the edges. So sometimes that works. It just depends on the marker. Some markers are very transparent, some markers are a little bit more opaque, so it's easier to just have a stroke of a cut and then filling it in. But I think that's one thing you can do, and then two is I think you just need to saturate the page more. There's a few areas where it just feels a little bit too light. It doesn't feel like enough marker got into the paper. Again, it'll come, you just have to kind of get experienced with it, see how the marker reacts, see how the paper reacts. Colored pencil ones look terrific. You don't really notice any unevenness in the fill beneath it because the colored pencil is doing such a nice job of kind of mixing everything together. Nice use of color, nice use of white, which is especially important, and I would say overall they just feel a lot more kind of fun and a lot more confident. So I like this, the way this is going. Just keep practicing and we'll see how it goes next time.